Good morning. We'll just give it a few moments for everybody to load into the webinar and then we will begin. So, good morning and welcome to our Agriculture and Sustainable Food Programmes webinar. I'm Kaylee, I'm a graduate from Writtle University College and I now work within their marketing team. I'm joined here today by Henry, John and Anya, who are part of the academic team. Before I hand you over to the academic team, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to Writtle University College and why it's a great place to study. So, what to expect from today's webinar? As I said, I will give you a brief introduction to Writtle University College. I will then hand you over to the academic team so you can get a detailed understanding of the courses that we offer in agriculture and sustainable food, and then we will answer any questions that you have. Please do put your questions through at any point during the webinar, and you can do so by writing them in via your control panel. So firstly, why come to Writtle? We have a long-standing reputation for land-based courses since 1893. We are located in rural Essex, close to Chelmsford, and we have some great transport links. We are small and specialist. We are friendly, welcoming and supportive, and we have a great community feel, meaning that we are an easy stepping stone on from school or college, or if you're looking to get back into education. At Writtle, we offer a wide range of subjects and facilities, and we give that ideal blend of theory and practical learning. And as well as great academic teams, we have some fantastic support services, and they are there to ensure that you succeed and that you're able to make the most out of your student life with us. So I'd just like to shout about our National Student Survey results. In 2020, we were ranked 92% with overall student satisfaction, meaning that we were highest in our university sector institution in England. So just a little bit about our facilities. We are a large open campus of around 480 acres and we are surrounded by beautiful gardens and countryside. We have a dedicated equine centre home to around 70 horses, including a working stud facility. We have our Titchmarsh Animal Centre, which is home to around 250 different animals. We have our Canine Therapy Centre, our 100-acre working farm. We also have on our main site, we have our library, our careers advisory service and our purpose-built higher education study hub. We also have on our main campus our 14 halls of residence. We have our garden room restaurant, our Time Out Cafe and our Starbucks pod. We also have our recreation and fitness centre, which includes a gym and free weights room. As well as this, we have our design studios, research labs, glass houses and our multi-faith room. So, as I said, we are located in a beautiful Essex village. Within Writtle, you can find a co-op supermarket, there are pubs available, there's also a village, famous Tiptree tea rooms, and we have a doctor's surgery and pharmacy, as well as a few restaurants. Not only this, we're really close to Chelmsford, just 2 miles away. And taking a break from studying, you can go there and you'll find some fantastic shopping centres. We have a trampoline park, there's an Everyman cinema, as well as a new leisure centre. Most of our student nights out take place in Chelmsford, and here you can find plenty of pubs, clubs and bars, and they're there to satisfy all budgets and music tastes. If you're looking at travelling further away where you're studying with us, we are less than 40 minutes to London, just a 40-minute drive to Southend Seafront, and only a half-an-hour drive from Stansted Airport. University is a big step in life, so living away needs to have that home-from-home experience. And all of our halls are located on our main campus. As I mentioned, we have 14 halls of residence, totalling around 400 rooms. And we offer a range of room options, from a single room to a double ensuite, depending on your budget and your preference. All of our halls of residence have a common room and lounge with a small kitchen to allow you to make snacks and meals of a weekend. Included in your accommodation price is a meal allowance, and you can use your meal allowance within our garden room restaurant, our Time Out Cafe and our Starbucks pod. And within Time Out Cafe, they sell groceries and snacks. We also have a laundrette on site, and this is available via an app on your mobile phone. And all of our first year students are guaranteed a place in our halls of residence. As well as great academic teams, we have some fantastic support teams, from our learning support and our wellbeing team to student success team and our career support team. We have a very welcoming Students' Union, and the Students' Union is there to help with the social life activities, clubs. This year things had to be a little bit different, so we had to make sure that our entertainment was COVID safe. We started off with some SU bar events and then moved to some online fun activities. Hoping that we get back to some normality, the SU will be able to put on some themed fundraising nights, As well as this, the SU is responsible for sports and societies as well as social nights. The Students' Union is a small friendly team, and there are opportunities for you to get involved with this outside of your study. So before I hand you over to the academic team, I'm just going to show you a short video about Brittle.
The great outdoors, and even greater indoors, an education for the real world, putting theory into practice, smaller class numbers and supportive tutors, highest overall for student satisfaction, breaking new ground, breaking the mould for almost 130 years, around 200 open hectares outside Chelmsford, a close community that will welcome you inside, making lifelong friends, experiences for life, being just 35 minutes from London, but a world away. Discover our hands-on, industry-recognised courses, putting theory to the test, putting alumni in high places, putting your career first, putting science into practice.
That's just a whistle-stop tour introduction to Bristol University College. I will now hand over to Henry, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the courses that we offer.
Okay, good morning. My name's Henry Matthews and I'm the course manager for agriculture, but I teach across a variety of our programs, including the Sustainable Food Production course. I think it's no exaggeration to say it's been a really difficult year in all sorts of ways for many, many people across the world. But for food and agriculture, I think this year has really highlighted some of the issues and the importance of the subject. This headline, this newspaper article came in February or beginning of March last year, 2020, starting off saying that actually in the UK we didn't need farmers and that we'd be able to import all of our food from elsewhere across the world. But of course the COVID-19 hit us, and actually it was realised that farming actually does have a place and it is important, and that really sort of started off a whole series of headlines, events, and questions that have been asked about agriculture and food production for the last year. So these were the sort of headlines we've seen. Questions about the food supply chain, food banks, is our food system broken? In fact, our food chains have been remarkably resilient, I think, and although there have been various examples of shortages of certain items, I think our food system has proved up to it. But there is some question about our ability to feed ourselves and feed our population, and that's the sort of thing that we look at in our programs. So what have we seen? Well, from a consumer's point of view, more food's consumed at home, people are planning their meals more, and there's less waste. So people are thinking more about their food and more about where their food comes from. And some food categories have had a much increase in demand. Flour, for example, people looking to bake at home. And if you look along the supply chain, home delivery, local stores have all risen to prominence as people have had to stay indoors. From a producer point of view, from the farmer's point of view, there's been an upsurge in box schemes and delivery. There's a farm about 3 miles from where I am now who supplied potatoes into the specialist trade, mainly baking potatoes actually, to cafes and restaurants, and they moved very, very swiftly into home delivery. And also farm shops. I took a group of students to a farm shop a week before lockdown, taking maybe £1,500 a week. Within lockdown, they were taking £4,000 or £5,000 a week. So it's had a big impact on producers in certain areas. And also labour availability is a big issue, and that, of course, is complicated by the Brexit events. But also looking globally, there's a big question about how we feed the planet. And this Economist article on the 9th of May suggested that the global food supply chain was actually working and keeping the world fed. But I think looking further down the line, there are some serious issues globally about how we feed the world. And this again was from a newspaper article in the summer, and that the world faces the worst food crisis for at least 50 years. But of course, some of these issues were already there. We have a rising world population, thought to be at least 9 billion by 2050. How do we as an industry, and how do we as a world feed that growing population? And of course, there are other issues. There's a backdrop of the environment and the deforestation that has become very prominent in the press. Is something that also needs to be considered. How do we produce more from an environment which we rely on to produce that food? So this is another article from The Economist, looking at particularly the production of soya and what that is doing to the rainforests. Climate change, another big issue that sort of overlays a lot of what we talk about, and that's being felt across the world. Two examples there, one Australia and one Nigeria. And then coming back to home, closer to home, we've had the new agricultural bill that was passed during the autumn, and there was the controversy surrounding food standards in this country. How do we maintain food standards if we're going to allow imports from other parts of the world now that we're no longer part of the European Union? And then there's a new agriculture policy, which is replacing the common agricultural policy, which has the objective of being greener. Will it be greener? And what is the future for agriculture in the UK? That really came to prominence again at the end of November with a new farming policy put forward to Parliament. Big discussions in the farming community about what the impact of that will be, and actually we probably still don't know. And then sort of looking further down the supply chain, we had these scenes just before Christmas related to, well, Brexit, the supply chain really, political really. And that, again, this is something that we need to consider when we look at agriculture and food in its totality. And then even more recently, issues surrounding Brexit in Northern Ireland with these empty supermarket shelves in Belfast. So what are we looking at in terms of agriculture in the future? Well, we're still going to need to produce food in this country, and we will look at, and we do look at, the sort of traditional methods of food production and what farmers have done for centuries. But actually the emphasis now is going to be more on the countryside, and there's a whole new raft of measures coming in under what's called the ELMS scheme, which is Environmental Land Management Schemes. And this is something that is unfolding now, and it will be something that we need to consider as agriculturalists and as lecturers in agriculture. But there are other things that we need to look at. Agroforestry. This is Wakeling's farm in Suffolk, pioneers of agroforestry, growing trees alongside crops. We're looking at new potential crops. This is quinoa, which is originated in the Andes, but now is grown in Essex, believe it or not. And we have to remember that 80%, 90% of food is produced by smallholders with very small farms, less than the size of a football pitch. We need to globally consider those people as well. And then we need to think about urban agriculture, vertical agriculture, and we're doing some work on that at Rittel, which I'll come to that a bit later. And this is a floating farm in Holland. And then maybe we're going to be looking at insects as a possible food source in the future, or maybe even algae. So although agriculture has a very sort of staid and traditional image, there are quite a lot of exciting things happening, and we need to be aware of these as we go forward. So why would you come to Rittel? Well, we have new programs. So in the summer, we validated a BSc Honours in Agriculture, and we also validated a BSc in Agricultural Regenerative Systems and Regenerative Systems and Livestock. I'll come on to each of these courses individually in a moment. We also have the Sustainable Food Production, and this is the course which looks at more of the supply chain issues. And there are a lot of opportunities in the supply chain, in the value chain, because once we produce the food, it then has to obviously get to the consumer. And there's a whole set of processes and procedures and opportunities further down the line, further down the supply chain. And we have postgrad opportunities as well. We've got post-harvest technology and crop production in agriculture and horticulture, which really take your studies to the next level. And we're currently considering, and we will have on our books, an MBA in agriculture and food production. We're still developing that, but that should be on the books by September for a new intake in 2021. So throughout our courses, there are general themes which I've sort of hinted at already, but obviously food production is really important, and that sort of is the key. But sort of issues that surround that, food security, written into the new agricultural bill in the UK, was an undertaking that governments need to look at the food security in the UK, which is we are actually quite vulnerable in some sectors. Looking at the whole supply chain, recognizing that agriculture is only a very first part of what is quite a lengthy and complicated process. Importance of soil and water, and the regenerative program particularly concentrates on the soil. Landscapes and biodiversity, as I've said already, of increasing importance, and recognition that agriculture is responsible really for maintaining landscapes and biodiversity in so many ways. Consumer behaviour, again, I've already said about how consumers and customers have changed their choices and preferences as a result of lockdown. Climate change I've mentioned already. Policy I've mentioned already. Technology, there are a lot of opportunities in robotics. There's a lot of talk of drones. And farming is moving in a way which is looking to try and tailor inputs according to what the needs are of a particular field or of a particular square metre of a field. Management, need to pull all of the technology business together, and looking at diversification. Over half of the farms in the UK have some form of diversification. That's particularly prevalent in this area. Okay, but sort of underpinning all of this is the Sustainable Development Goals, which were developed by the United Nations. And if you spent some time looking at those, you'd realise that a lot of those are to do with agriculture and food production. So if you look at the first three, I've already said that so many people in the world are smallholders or farmers. You've got zero hunger there, and good health and well-being, all linked to agriculture, and many of the others are as well. So here are the courses. So this is the more traditional BSc in agriculture. The first two lines there are sort of general type of modules: sustainable development, political and economic context. And then you've got the pink line there, which is the livestock line, and the green, which is the sort of crop production line. And then a management one on the bottom. So you've got there really a combination of all of those things that are important in agriculture, and you can see there also the science which underpins the whole course throughout. We then have the regenerative, which is the one which we launched last year, and I think this is the one I'm particularly proud of, although obviously I'm very pleased with all of them. But this is, I think, the direction of travel of agriculture. We have neglected the soils. We have not thought so much about diversity and sustainability. And this really, although all of our programs think about sustainability, this one sort of hones in on really where I think agriculture is going, or where it should be going. You can see there, you follow through the sort of darker green line. So our guy's currently doing the introduction, and we're very much focusing on soil and biodiversity, looking at natural predators, and then that's built on with the organic and sustainable farming systems, agroforestry, and the natural resources management. But also, obviously, you have to concentrate on the science, and also look at the management at the bottom as well. Okay, so this is just a picture of our current guys who came in the first year doing the regenerative course. All of our first years opted to do the regenerative program, and there you've got a wide range of people. We're really keen on diversity in our groups, and countries represented in that picture include South Africa, Cyprus, Turkey, Germany, Australia, and also from different backgrounds. We've got people that have been out in industry, have done a variety of jobs from, I don't know, someone in the music industry's joined us, someone in the building trade. And then we've got the more traditional school leavers and guys that have come off farms in Suffolk and Essex. So very wide range of people from different backgrounds, which we welcome. This is our sustainable food production. Again, really important, looking at supply chains, looking at what happens further down the line once the food leaves the farm or the orchard. And you can see there we have that global food systems, that sort of pink line. And you can see there you've got an international value chains module and also a study tour. We've developed a close relationship with universities, one in Finland and one in the Netherlands. And we've developed a module with those universities whereby students will spend 6 weeks in each, and 6 weeks with us, 6 weeks in the Netherlands, and 6 weeks in Finland. And that's really looking at the development of a food product, horticultural or agricultural, and how you might do the market research, which is carried out in the Netherlands. You look at production, which is done with us, and you look at the launch and general sustainability in Finland. So that's something, obviously, in the current climate, with current restrictions, that's not happening, but we're looking at ways we can develop that in the future. And hopefully, if anything, if we return to any sort of normality in the future, that'll be something that will be a main feature of this particular program. This is the postgraduate program. You can see sort of from the top there are 2 modules which run through 2 semesters. This is sustainable crop production, post-harvest systems and management. The horticulture and agricultural programs follow the same pathway, but within those modules, you will concentrate and focus on either agricultural or horticultural products according to your level of interest. And then you have these sort of optional choice modules, which usually are the global trade and supply chain management, and then the food security and sustainable agriculture, with the strategic management and sometimes the environmental policy as well. So it's quite a comprehensive program. Really, post-harvest is something that's really important and often overlooked in terms of agriculture. But you know, when you think so much of the world's food is wasted, post-harvest and treatments and care of food products is really important. So what are the entry requirements? Well, these are the formal requirements: 96 UCAS points with 1 A-level grade C or above. If you've done the IB diploma, then 24, extended diploma, MMM. We're looking for 4 GCSE passes, which include maths and science. However, we do take students on experience, interest or background, and a commitment or some sort of perhaps a family connection or something that will indicate to us that they have a desire and the ability to be able to study on our programs. And the way that happens is that people will come in on a high certificate, and that's the first year of any of our programs. And once you've achieved that, then you can then go on and do the full degree. And this is a really good way in for those people that have come from a less than traditional course or a background, people that have been away in industry. A lot of our guys come in on this, and almost without exception, they will then go on to do the full degree or the diploma. So 2 years is a diploma, 3 years is a degree. But even if you haven't got this, please talk to us if you're still interested in joining us. Okay, so who are we? Well, as I said, I'm Henry Matthews. I farmed for over 20 years in Essex, not far from Writtle, on a family farm. I joined Writtle in the early 2000s, and since then I've taught on a variety of modules and courses, and I've been very fortunate to be able to do some global consultancy, and I've now worked in over 20 countries, some of which are listed there. I'm currently working on a project, or 2 projects, one in Azerbaijan on the marketing of traditional food products, and one in Kyrgyzstan on organic food production. So quite a lot of global experience as well as farming locally. Christos, interested in sustainable agriculture and integrated pest management, but his sort of specialism really is insects, both in terms of as pests and what can be done to control pests or avoid pests, but also in insect production, insect farming, which looks as though it does have a future. We have Tammy, who's more in the field and protected crop production area, looking at greenhouse production, but also the technology surrounding greenhouse production, hydroponics, vertical farming, LED lighting, which you can see there. Roy, who's our sort of specialist crop scientist, particularly good on fertilizer, nutrient utilization and diseases in cereals, has a lot of published work, does a lot of the science delivery in the first year. James is more a vegetable and fruit production person, but also teaches world and alternative crops and does quite a lot on the new technology. Nick does a lot of the livestock. He's come to us recently from industry, where he worked in poultry management, does quite a lot of the business. We have Robin, another business lecturer, experienced in the city, looks at more at the supply chains and finance. Anya, who's our head of school, who's on this call, who has a background in plant pathology, but also oversees quite a lot of the curriculum design and assessment. And we have Professor Peter Hobson, who does a lot of work on the biodiversity. He keeps us in check on the sustainability issues, serves on a lot of councils and committees, including the World Wildlife Fund. So I think we do have a wide range of skills from different lecturers who bring something different to the teaching and to the modules. How are you taught? Well, we have regular classes and online. Obviously, the situation over the last 11 months or so has meant that a lot of it has been online, and we're teaching online now to Easter at least. And although challenging to start with, I think we're developing the strategies to be able to make that more accessible to students than it was to start with. We do as many practicals as possible. We very much believe in student-centered learning, small group tutorials, and we do a lot of visits. Obviously not too many at the moment, but we have a lot of good connections with local farms and local businesses who we visit on a regular basis. So that one in the bottom corner, there's actually Ipswich Docks, looking at quality issues with exporting and importing actually cereals and grains and oilseeds. How are you assessed? Well, we have the traditional essays, reports, presentations. We have debates, which are really an unusual or a slightly different way of assessing students, but actually work quite well because it tests those perhaps are not quite so good at written work, but who can talk and discuss. And we find that our agriculture students are particularly good at that. We also have exams, which are the traditional way. Not quite so many exams actually now, as we recognise that exams only really test people's ability to do exams in some cases. So although our first years will have maybe 3 or 4 exams, by the time we get to the third year, it's probably only 1. Okay, so just a brief look at some of the visits we've done. So this is second year students at the Doe Show before lockdown last February. All of these actually took place before lockdown, obviously. So yes, so the Doe Show there on the left, in the middle there at the top, actually probably less than half a mile from where I'm sat now, is the local farm with their who have integrated a sheep enterprise into an arable enterprise, looking at the regenerative properties of a sheep enterprise. The top right there is ex-student turkey farmer producing 6,000 turkeys for Christmas. This is the Groundswell event. Some of you might have heard of that. This is in Hertfordshire. It's actually not the event, but it's the farm, that Western Park Farm, that hosts the Groundswell event. Very big on regenerative farming. Sawyer, this is a farm near Harlow. Again, an ex-student. He was actually shortlisted for Farm Manager of the Year. Largest grower of soya in the UK. Home Farm Nacton, big vegetable producer, particularly for supermarkets, got organics as well. And this is a farmer near Halstead, also in Essex, does a lot of agroforestry and conservation work. So that's really just a flavour of some of the visits that took place last year. We have good industry links. There's some of them there, some of them you recognise, some of them you might not. Just to pick out possibly Hodmer Dodds. Hodmer Dodds is a really interesting business if you want to look it up. They won the Radio 4 Food Programme Award, not last year, I think it was the year before. Specialise in producing, supplying pulses and grains produced in East Anglia to sort of specialist delicatessens, that's type of shop, health food shops. William, who's one of the directors, is a good friend of the college, another ex-student who helped with the validation of the course. But they will have a big impact in input into our courses. And then obviously we go to the big boys, Tesco. I've got a few people working in Tesco supply chain. And Garford's specialist precision hose, which hoe crops using lasers and robotic and photocells to pick out the weeds. So ex-student that works for them, one of their representatives. So we have quite a good range of contacts in the industry. Okay, and this is a trial that was started in November, looking at a vertical growing system. If I'm brutally honest, it's not something I know particularly a huge amount about, but colleagues do. So James and Cammy are involved with this. It's a project just to look at the sustainability and the issues and the benefits of a vertical growing system, and that's installed in our glasshouse. So we're looking forward to seeing what the results of that might be. As Kelly mentioned, we have the farm, 40 hectares of arable land. Again, we're currently looking as to how we can integrate that more fully into the curriculum. Already, students will be going out on the farm, working with the pigs, or on field walks, looking at the crops we've got in the ground. We have a pig herd, which is used a lot in the teaching. 75 ewe sheep flock, managed under sort of a traditional system, be lambing in March. Students will be getting involved with that. And then we've got 100 fattening cattle in the shed. We appointed a new farm manager earlier this year, which actually turned out to be one of our third-year students that we thought could step up. A very able student, actually an interesting background. Grew up in an area of Ipswich, suburb of Ipswich. Got really good A-level grades. Was due to go to medical school to be a doctor, and at the last minute he changed his mind and came to see us just before start of the year, a couple of years ago, and decided he wanted to do agriculture with us, and he's done really well. From a non-farming background, has really risen to the challenge. And also the mid-tier environmental scheme, as I said earlier, this is becoming really important, and as farmers have lost or are losing the payments from the Common Agricultural Policy and its replacement, the environmental schemes are going to be the way that farmers can get support for what they're doing. We've been around a long while, so talking about the big changes that are happening in agriculture at the moment, probably as big as have happened since 1893, when the college was founded in the centre of Chelmsford, came to the current site on the outskirts of Writtle village in the 1930s. There have been big changes during that time, and the motto, or the traditional motto of Writtle, is "Time tries the truth in everything." Never has that never been more so, and never has there been more so in agriculture. So we have some challenging times ahead, but we're ready to meet them. So what makes us special? We've got the new programme for 2020, which I've already talked about. It's very relevant, and I really believe this very strongly, that our regenerative and our look at supply chains rather than just traditional farming is the way forward. We've done a lot of research. We looked at the policy, markets, people's perceptions. We have a farm which we integrate into the teaching. We're very student-centered, as I said before. We tend to have small groups, which means we can differentiate what we do according to the student group and also to individuals. So that's part of our student focus and support. We have flexible delivery. Having small groups means that we can do things off the cuff. My cousin, who farms down the road from Writtle, if he's drilling sugar beet or doing something interesting on the farm, I can get a minibus and we can go and look at it. So, and I said this already, the group size lends itself to individual learning. What about jobs? Well, there are huge numbers of different jobs, and this is just a few of them, and I could introduce you to the people we have who've left in the last 10 years who would be in any one of these roles. And there are many more. And I mean, it's interesting to read in the farming press this week that farmers are going to have to pay for advice for the new Elm scheme. I mean, there's an opportunity straight away for a graduate to get into either one of the land agents or the environmental advisory organisations to provide that support and information to farmers to enable them to meet the needs and take advantage of the new scheme. A few sort of testimonials. Rittle's been the making of me. Staff are extremely knowledgeable. I actually know the top one there was from a student who came from outside of a farming background. She'd been working in Next, decided she actually had a boyfriend at the time who was interested in agriculture, and she thought she'd like to try it. She got a first with us. She worked for ADAS, which is a big consultancy organisation, and now works for an independent agronomist in Essex. So what are we looking for? Well, there's a few things that we particularly are looking for. I think we're very keen that what we're teaching is skills rather than knowledge. You know, as I said, exams test knowledge, facts. What we're looking for is individuals who are adaptable, flexible, resilient. So we're really keen that what our students as they leave us are rounded individuals and not just people that can recite a diet program or a fungicide program for a crop, because that changes, and that's changing all the time, and that's what we're looking for. And we're looking for future leaders. Okay, and just to finish, 5 reasons to study at Rittle. The importance of food. Human well-being depends on the sustainable production of food, and sustainability underpins what we're doing, because we can't afford as a human race to detract from our environment, because that's what provides us with our food. We use the farm, field and laboratories as a really important part of our teaching. Science into practice is a phrase we've used already. And this is the integrated thinkers that we're looking at. It's not just about producing food, but it's thinking about how you do it. And there are environmental and social challenges that go with that. And we do have a multidisciplinary team, as you saw earlier. We're looking at individuals. We value each student individually. You're not just in a group of 50 or 60 or in a group of 15 or 20 or 25, and we do get to know you. So that's really key to what we do. And we have good connections with industry. As I say, I farmed for 25 years. I have got some good contacts, as have all of us. You know, we've all got friends, colleagues, connections, networks, which we can rely on to pull in people to speak or visit them in their businesses. Okay, so that's me done. Thank you for your attention, and my email address is at the bottom there, and please feel free to email me if you've got any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Henry. So we are now just going to go through and answer your questions that you have. Before that, I just want to talk to you a little bit more about where you can find some more information. So firstly, we have our website. Obviously, you can take a look at the courses on there. We are running one-to-one sessions next Wednesday on the 27th of January. You can use the QR code shown on your screen to book an appointment now, or you will be sent a link tomorrow to enable you to do this. Also, we have our virtual open day hub, and on this you can find out more about the course booklets. You can have a look at course presentations. You can also look at our support functions. You can also find out about student finance and accommodation. We are running accommodation, student finance and student life webinars this afternoon. So please do, if you haven't booked onto those yet, please do book onto those. And we are also running a Liberty webinar. Anya, I don't know if you just want to talk a little bit more about that, and you will also be getting that link sent into with you tomorrow in an email.
Yes, next Wednesday on the same day as you have the one-to-ones, we're offering a webinar which is going to drawing industry alumni, people actually working in the industry, to talk about the issues that are facing this whole sector. So you're very welcome to attend, and please do so, and links will be sent to you, and obviously you can see that on our website as well.
Perfect, thanks, Vanya. So you will get all of that in an email sent out to you tomorrow. And also just to, one more thing about our brand new 360 tour. So this enables you to take a look at us virtually. Unfortunately, we can't welcome you to the campus due to the current circumstances, but we are giving you the next best thing. So via our website, you can take a look at our 360 tour. You can take a look at our main campus, you can go into the library, you can view lots of different facilities. So please do, in your own time, take a look around that as well. So for the moment, we will get on to some questions. Please do keep putting them through and we will get through to them. In normal circumstances, what would the percentage be within practical theory?
Quite difficult to answer that because it will vary across different modules, but certainly from my point of view, I'd expect in each module I teach to have sort of farm walks, because I mainly do the crops. So we'd have 2 or 3 crop walks per module, and also I would usually include a visit as well. But the teaching really is very practical, so it isn't a question of me standing up in front of the students with a PowerPoint presentation for an hour and a half. That there will be exercises and practical things to look at during the course of a session.
Perfect, thank you. Do you recommend getting any prior work experience before starting if I don't have a farming background?
I think desirable but not essential would be the phrase to use. A lot of our students come to us without farming experience, and we'll get jobs while they're with us. I mean, currently we've got 3 of our first-year students are actually working on the college farm, so there are opportunities on the college farm, and that is something we're going to build into the programs to try and give people the experience that they might not have had.
Perfect. When does the study tour that you mentioned happen?
The study tour that has happened, and we've had to suspend it for obvious reasons, in the spring. So it starts at the end of January and goes through to May. So it was 6 weeks in the Netherlands, at Fontis, which is in Venlo, sort of eastern Netherlands, then to us, and then to Jyväskylä in Finland, which is in central Finland, for 6 weeks.
It's probably useful to say it's the spring term of the 2nd year of the course that actually happens.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Are you able to talk more about the MBA option and how it differs from the other courses?
We're still discussing this, but what we want it to be is to have a different flavour from other MBA courses and other courses we offer, and it will be based very much on the things that I've been talking about: sustainability, value chains, and looking at really the whole sustainability of businesses and how that affects food production.
I can add a little bit to that, if you like, in terms of the actual structure of it. It will be we will obviously incorporate the sort of core business element that you would expect in an MBA, but that will be very much linked to the practical project type work that we were talking about through the undergraduate program. So you will be doing some problem solving in the workplace, on the estate, and dealing with real life issues that are facing this sector. So that's the structure of the MBA as we're beginning to hone that through, and we hope that will be on stream for this year.
Perfect, thank you. In my country, Honduras, we don't have access to take IELTS test, only TOEFL. I want to know if you can consider my case and accept me the TOEFL test as my proof English proficiency. That was hard.
Can I jump in here, because I think I know this student. So yes, I just want to say hello to you all. I'm John Cullum. Some of you will know me because I'm helping with the recruitment for the sustainable food production and the master's courses, and Henry does the recruitment for the agriculture, various agriculture courses. I was just looking at the list of students that we have here today, and I can only tell where you come from if I've already been in contact with you, but it's interesting. We've got someone from India, someone from Nigeria, and we've got one from Honduras who must be having a very early must be up very early this morning, I think. So well done. That question that you raised, I am in discussion with registry about this. So I don't think if you don't mind, I won't answer that question. But I know the student, and we are dealing with that question, and we'll be in touch with you again soon. But we try to find, whatever your problem, RITL is very good if it can to try and find ways around these problems if that's possible.
Perfect, thank you. If I start on one course and I find that one course would be more appropriate, would I be able to change over to the other ones?
Yes.
Shall I give?
Sorry, John.
Yeah. I thought I'd give Henry's voice a little rest. Yes, we obviously the sooner one makes the transfer, the sooner the transfer, the better. But people do change courses, and within the first month or so, it's quite straightforward to do that. So it's not the biggest decision you ever make. Which one would you do? We do have people change.
And I really would encourage students to talk to us about what their career aspirations are, so we can advise you before you even start, so that we do have that opportunity to discuss with you in detail what you really want from the course and point you in the right direction.
Thank you, and that leads to my next question. Sorry, I have can you give me an example of what some of your graduates have gone on to do?
Yeah, I can do some of that. Most of them will go on to do something that is, if they've not come from a farm, if they've come from a farm or they're a farming family, the chances are they will go back to that family farm, maybe not immediately, but eventually. And what will they do in the meantime? Well, they'll do harvest work in Australia or milk cows in New Zealand, or do something sort of different somewhere else. But we have a lot of students who are agronomists working for Agri, Frontier, any of the big agronomy firms, also for the land agents. So we've had people at Stratton Parker, Savills, Wright Wilson. So it's a variety of things as well. We've got one who works for the Red Tractor organisation as well. So it covers a wide range of different organisations and firms.
I think it's worth saying also that we're very conscious that agriculture is changing, and we're trying to position our students, both our undergraduates and postgraduates, to take up some of the new positions that are going to come on stream. So Henry mentioned, for example, the ELMS scheme, and we see that would be something that students, there will be openings for graduate roles in that area.
Excellent, thank you. What proportion of students live on campus versus at home locally, and do you have a lot of international students?
We do have a lot of international students. Well, it depends what you mean by a lot, but so I'm not sure what the proportion is, but we do have quite a few. As I said, on the first year regenerative, we've got representatives of at least 5, if not 6 different countries. But the proportion that live on campus varies. So in our first year, it's of the 15, I think maybe 5 live on campus. But in other years, it'll be 60%. It depends a lot on the year, 60, 70%.
And our master's courses tend to attract a good number of international students. Really, over the years, we've had very many countries represented here.
Fabulous.
Not sure if we've had Honduras though. So we must work on that.
Perfect. Let's find another question. What does a typical week look like in normal circumstances?
A normal week, the sort of face-to-face time is probably 18 hours, something like that, which will be spread over usually 3 or 4 days. But obviously there's an expectation that when you're not actually face-to-face, you're working or reading, or perhaps gaining experience. So I think currently the first years, obviously, I mean, in current circumstances, it's obviously very different, but you'd expect the first years to be Monday, all day, long day Monday, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, and most of Thursday. But it depends on which options you're doing, which line you're doing, as to which days.
And we will also encourage students to, you know, work on our farm and gain some experience on our estate as well. So that's part of the learning outside of the taught sessions.
Thank you. Do I get an individual tutor throughout my time studying?
Yes, we allocate a member of staff for each year group, and within the role of a tutor is to have at least 2 personal tutorials with each student, each module, each semester.
Thank you very much. How have you adjusted to teaching in COVID, and how have the students found it?
We've had really positive feedback from students, actually, and as I said during my presentation, I think we've had to learn very quickly. So we, at the moment, first years, for example, they have Monday and Thursday they have online sessions. When we started the year, that we had they had one full day in, so they had a whole day in on a Monday, and then they had Thursday online. But we're developing strategies so that we're not just talking at computer screens. Obviously, in class we can do all of these applied exercises and things. It's a bit more different, a bit different online. But I think we're getting there, having shorter periods, getting the students more involved in the research, flipping the classroom so they do a lot of the preparatory work themselves, and we have much more discussion and evaluation actually in sessions online.
Thank you. From your experience, is it possible to commute to Writtle from London by public transport for the whole course?
We have people that do it. It's not ideal. It depends obviously whereabouts in London you are, but we have people coming from Croydon, which is the wrong side of London really. I think there's someone at the moment that comes from Finchley. Public transport is more of a challenge. It's obviously better in a car. Obviously, it depends really on your circumstances. It is possible. There is a minibus shuttle from Chelmsford Station to the college, which a lot of people take advantage of.
Perfect, thank you. Got a couple of thank yous, really interesting. Thank you for your presentation. Excellent. Right, let's find some more.
Katie, have you got the little video clips we could show?
Yeah, perfect. I was actually just going to say that we haven't got questions at the moment, so we'll show you. We have got a couple of videos from our students, what they think about studying. So we will show you those videos now. So please do take a look at those and think of some more questions during the meantime, and then that will bring us to the end of our webinar. So I'll show you the first video now. I think that shows quite well of an example. So I will just show you another one for you. So please, I've seen some more questions come through, so please do keep putting them through and we'll get through to those shortly. Perfect. So that does give you a great understanding of what our real life students think of studying at Writtle. So we have just got a few moments left, so we'll answer the remaining questions. If you do think of some questions after the webinar, please do make sure that you book onto a one-to-one session. The QR code is still on that screen if you would like to use that, or as I say, you will receive a link with that tomorrow. When will the details of the MBA be available and what would the deadline for applying be?
Okay, Sarah, shall I take that? So we're really excited about this MBA and we're thinking about it in quite an innovative way. I think the details will be available, or the course structure will be available by the middle of next month. So you'll be able to see that hopefully on our website. But I would encourage you to just email me to, or John or any of us really, to find out any more and talk to us who are developing it. And in terms of applications, ideally we would like an application if you're from overseas. We'd quite like an application by April, I would say, to get through the visa application details. But if you're a UK student, it could be slightly later. But I would say by the end of April, May would be the time we would expect you to apply.
Perfect, thank you very much. So we have got time for one more question and then we will have to bring our webinar to a close. So can you give me some examples of research topics that you have developed in post-harvest with your students?
Okay, so I probably can talk a little bit about that. So one of the students at the moment is looking at coatings for fruit and vegetables to replace some of the chemicals that are probably going to be withdrawn to be able to extend the shelf life of products. So that's one project that they're looking at. We also have looked at the influence of some of the post-harvest practices on taste and how consumers perceive that. There's been other projects that have been looking at packaging and looking at how we can extend the shelf life of perishable products through various pre-treatments and packaging. Hopefully that will give you a flavour of some of the things that we have been looking at recently.
Perfect.
Hayley,
Thank you.
Hayley, before you wind things up, is it possible just to say one very brief thing? If any of you listening are already a graduate and have done a degree and live in the UK, all three of the undergraduate courses we've mentioned today, agriculture, sustainable food production, and horticulture as well, we are hoping that we'll be able to repeat these graduates will be able to get a student loan funding to retake one of these, to take a second degree. We won't know this till March, so it's not on our website or anything yet. But if you are already a graduate, I've got one who's done German and philosophy is lined up for this and is just waiting for the for us to get the go-ahead. The government will repeat this offer, but agriculture in its widest sense is one of these exempted courses. You can get a second grant for tuition fees. So you may like to keep in touch. If you're a graduate, please get in touch with us.
Perfect, thank you. So John, I have got a reply to that. Somebody said that they are a graduate. How do they apply? Not via UCAS, they studied law.
Right. If you, sorry, this other little thing, sorry to hold you up, but if you are applying for our undergraduate courses full-time, you must apply, if you're a home student, through UCAS. If you're international or are studying a part-time course, then you can apply direct to the college. And likewise, this graduate entry scheme, you have to do the degree at the moment over 4 years. So you're classed as a part-time student and you can apply direct to the college. I can send details to people about that if they're interested.
Perfect, thank you, John. I'm just replying. Sorry, trying to multitask at the moment. Perfect. So unfortunately, we have to end the webinar there as we are moving on to another one. But I'd just like to say thank you very much. We've had a lot of comments coming through now to say thank you. Some people have booked onto a one-to-one session. They really enjoyed the webinar, so thank you to our academic team for putting on a very good presentation. So that will be it from us. As I say, if you still have some further questions, please do make sure you book yourself onto a one-to-one session. You'll have half an hour slot with our academics to just kind of talk through all that you need to know moving forward. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have a lovely Sunday and we hope to see you in September. So thank you and goodbye.
Okay, bye.